Welcome into Second Down right here on ESPN Radio. Christian Gokel alongside Cody Queen and a guy who does his best Chris Collinsworth impression each day, Cam Ursher.
Cam, you're so smooth, dude.
Just sliding in to the Zoom call as we speak. I mean, Cam, speaking of smooth, is that a fresh haircut that I see through the Zoom? I can't quite tell, but I think it might.
Yeah. It's a fresh haircut. Yeah.
Oh, my man, looking
smooth.
smooth.
You know, like 400 miles away, but I can still tell. There we go. Chris Yokel, Cody Queen, and Cam Ursher here. Glad that you are hanging out with us on this Tuesday afternoon. Got a lot to dive into today. Really important series coming up for the Atlanta Braves. Some draft grades to dive into as well. The Atlanta Falcons, Terry Fontenot apparently acing his first draft as the general manager of the Atlanta Falcons. But guys, you know, it's South Georgia. College football is always on the docket, and ESPN.com has put out their updated list of their power rankings post-spring practice, and a lot of really big names shining through in spring practice, a lot of new names kind of bumping their teams up in the power rankings this year. But I thought kind of a surprising team atop the list, Oklahoma, led by Spencer Rattler, comes in at number 1 on ESPN's post-spring practice power ranking. Say that 5 times fast. We'll just say they're
Can't say it 1 time fast.
ESPN's updated power rankings there. Oklahoma comes in at number 1. Alabama comes in at number 2. I think surprising absolutely nobody after what they did yesterday. Georgia coming in at number 3, which means Georgia has jumped their week 1 opponent, Clemson, who has dropped down to number 4. Ohio State comes in at 5. Iowa State at 6. Texas A&M 7. North Carolina 8. Cincinnati is the highest ranked G5 team. They come in at number 9. And then Oregon, the highest ranked Pac-12 team, they come in at number 10. But Cam, going back up to the top, I know you ride for Spencer Rattler. They come in at number 1 in the country. Oklahoma every year, it seems like they're going to be playing the last couple games of the year for a shot to go to the college football playoffs. Obviously, that didn't happen for them last year because of a couple of bad losses during the year. But I think Spencer Rattler, the fact that he was able to turn around, end up winning the conference championship game and then decimating Florida in their bowl game, I think that momentum probably carrying Oklahoma's trajectory up to the top of these power rankings.
I don't think they're at the top. I still think if you're the defending champ, you're number 1. Every year. Until you're beaten, you're the defending champ, you're number 1. Alabama's bringing everybody back on defense. So I'm kind of confused on that. Their offense, Bryce Young, they're not going to miss a beat. I'm telling you. I could probably put them ahead. I don't know if I would put them ahead of Georgia or Clemson. I think they finished with the same record as Georgia last year. Clemson was a college football playoff team that made the college football playoffs. So I don't know if I could do that, but they're definitely a top 5 team, but not number 1.
And some other teams of interest inside of there. Notre Dame, who lost a ton of players to the draft this year, including their all-time winningest quarterback, Ian Book. They come in at number 12 in the power rankings. USC, Kadon Slovis, a guy who we were talking about yesterday, could be one of the first quarterbacks off the board next year. The guy who actually took JT Daniels' job at USC after JT Daniels got hurt. USC is number 13. Louisiana, the highest-ranked Sun Belt team, comes in at number 16. They lost a couple of guys to the draft, specifically in the backfield, but they got enough coming back. They still have some weapons in that backfield. Very good quarterback and a really solid defense. Louisiana, the highest-ranked Sun Belt team, they're 1 spot above the University of Florida, who comes in at number 17. And I think this is where it's interesting, Cam, and where Nick Saban and his recruiting and just his winning, you get the benefit of the doubt when you have an unproven quarterback, right? You're Alabama until somebody knocks you off, right? And nobody has been able to do that yet. So even though we really haven't had a chance to see Bryce Young in a leading role yet, he's getting the benefit of the doubt. Flip side of that, Dan Mullen, who had one of the top 3 most prolific offenses in college football last year, Kyle Trask is gone, but he still has Emory Jones, a guy who's been there for a while now, but Florida not getting the same kind of benefit of the doubt, a very unproven offense where you think about it, they pretty much lost what Alabama lost in terms of receiving production, quarterback play. Alabama lost their top 2 receivers, their number one running back and their starting quarterback, and yet they're still number 2 in the country.
And they're in the number 1 corner, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, just on the defensive side of the ball, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about on offense, right?
Yeah.
I just don't think Florida's getting that same benefit of the doubt. We don't know what Emory Jones is going to be able to do. They've recruited very well at the quarterback position as well. I, for one, think Dan Mullen and the style of offense he can draw up, Emory Jones can flourish in that offense. I think he's going to be a really big weapon in the SEC next year. But Cam, I look at Florida, and I just think there's a ton of question marks on defense. I think Brenton Cox is going to be one of the best players in the SEC. The stand-up defensive end, he can put his hand in the dirt too, stop the run really well. I think he's going to be one of the better guys in the SEC, period. I think they have some question marks in the secondary. Obviously, you lose Marco Wilson, who, beyond tossing a shoe, was an enormously talented corner, right? Enormously talented. And you lose a couple guys on the back end of the secondary as well. I just think maybe too many question marks right now for Florida, Cody, for people to put them inside the top 15.
What the only question mark is on offense. We know what we're going to get out of the defense. Nothing. They're not a very good defense. He's not recruited very heavily on the defense. He's getting a bunch of 3 stars, some 4 stars. Haven't got any 5 stars really on the
5 stars
defense.
That have come in have been via
transfers.
transfer.
Yep,
Yeah,
all transfers. So and so in order for Florida to flourish, since they don't have a very good defense, they got to score like 50 points a game. Now, are you believing that Emory Jones and company is going to be able to score 50 points a game? I don't think so. So that's where they're ranked. Where they're ranked 14 or 15?
17.
17. I don't think, dude, they're lucky to be in that position they are right now, because they're going to have to score to win games, and I don't think they're going to be able to keep up at all.
Yeah, I think this is probably the last year that they're going to allow this defensive staff to hang around if they don't put up another great performance, which they really haven't the past few years. I mean, Alabama cooked everybody last year, so I'm not holding that against them. But some of the other games where it's just you're like, the blitz calls on certain downs by Todd Grantham just kind of leave you shaking your head. But rounding out the top 25, again, this is ESPN's post-spring practice power rankings. That was better. Number 19, Ole Miss up there, which just has to completely be because of their offense, because they have very little on the defensive side of the ball. Number 20, LSU. If you want to talk about teams that have a potential to see the biggest rise from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, LSU comes in at number 20. I think they could end up being a top 10 team next year.
Go Tigers.
They have a very underrated secondary. Derek Stingley Jr. might be the best player in the country, period. And a couple other guys. It's going to be really determining how that quarterback battle ends up going. Miles Brennan versus Mac Johnson. Mac Johnson obviously going in as a true freshman and winning in the swamp. A big piece for him trying to take this next step and being the number 1 guy for LSU, whereas Miles Brennan, kind of shaky at the start of the year and then got hurt, I believe, in the Missouri game last year. It was never able to come back in the COVID-shortened season, so it's going to be an interesting battle to watch as we get into the fall camps. Number 21, Coastal Carolina, the second Sun Belt team on the board, and they have a ton of pieces back from a team that just absolutely dominated most of their schedule last year. Actually went head-to-head, Grayson McCall did, with the number 2 pick in the NFL draft, Zach Wilson, and won.
Smoked up!
And won. So Coastal Carolina coming at 21, a very interesting team. For PJ Zuko's sake, number 23, Penn State.
Hey, they in, baby.
They made a lot of changes to their coaching staff. Hopefully we can see some more production out of Penn State. It's more fun in college football when Penn State's good.
I agree.
Right? I mean, Michigan and Penn State being bad, I just don't think is good for college football. So hopefully Penn State can have a little bit of a bounce back here. And then number 25, surprisingly to me, the University of Miami. I thought they'd be much higher, because what's the number 1 currency you can have in college football?
Number 1 I mean,
right?
Yeah, I mean, they had a good record last year, so that's kind of weird.
Quarterback, right? If you have a quarterback who's established and is coming back, I think that's the number 1 currency in college football, and they have that in De'Aaron King.
Yeah, they do. They have somebody who might be will be a Heisman candidate, I believe, but number 25, that's really low considering who they put in the top 15. See, that's pretty low.
Well, I want to ask you guys this. You're saying LSU might be able to one that might rise the most. Which team on here in the lowers do you think could rise the most? You said LSU probably. I think it's LSU. Cam, who do you think on this list can be the highest?
Now I see Miami at 25, so I'll go Miami because the strength of schedule won't have to play too
I
much.
think Miami could be a top 15 after like 2 or 3 weeks, right? If they're 3-0,
Yeah.
they could just immediately jump up to top 15.
All right.
I'm with you on that. Obviously, LSU has a much tougher road to getting inside the top 10, but I absolutely think they can do it. I put Penn State on there as well. I think Penn State's a team that can jump up there. Now, on the flip side of it, teams I don't think will be in the top 10 at the end of the year. I'll start with Iowa State.
Start Oregon.
I think Oregon's good. I really like what Mario Cristobal is doing out there. He's kind of bringing that power SEC kind of mentality to the Pac-12. I mean, Penei Sewell going off the board in the first round. Again, we're talking about Derek Stingley maybe being the best player in the country. He might have the best player in the country in Kayvon Thibodeau, the defensive end. They've got pretty good weapons on the offensive side of the ball. I think Oregon could be a team that's pushing next year for the Pac-12 championship again. I think they maintain that top 10 status. But yeah, I think Iowa State could drop out fairly quickly. Texas A&M, I think it'd be a team that's probably going to stick around there for most of the year. I know you lose Kellen Mond, but I think they might actually, I'm not going to say improve, but I don't think they're going to miss a beat, and the offense itself might be better all around. North Carolina, to me, is just so hit or miss, I guess. They're kind of like the Auburn of the ACC.
I knew you were going to say that.
They have all the talent there, right? They have Sam Howell, but then you lose to Florida State, a bad Florida State team last year, and you didn't even have to play Clemson last year, right? And you get in a lot of like the bigger games you play, you get smoke checked by Notre Dame, right? But you're supposed to be a top 10 team in the country. I think would not be shocked, Cam, by like week 4 or 5 that North Carolina is like in the 20s, right? They have a great quarterback, but you just lost your 2 number 1 running backs to the NFL draft, I think in the first 3 rounds.
2 rounds.
I think the second guy got taken in the 3rd round.
At the beginning of the 3rd round?
Williams got taken, yeah. But I don't see North Carolina as a top 10 team, if I'm being 1,000% honest. They got some good wide receivers, but they lost a lot on defense. They lost their top 2 rushers. It's going to be tough for them to hold on unless Sam Howell can just elevate his play even more and become that Heisman candidate, top 5 pick kind of a player. I don't know that I inherently see that. Notre Dame is going to be interested to see who they go with at quarterback. They're number 12 right now. I think that's probably a good spot for them. I'd probably have Florida ranked a little bit higher. I think they have done a pretty decent job of recruiting, but I think Emory Jones has been there long enough. I think we've seen enough out of Dan Mullen developing quarterbacks that we can say Emory Jones is going to be a good quarterback. So I'd probably have them ranked a little bit higher. But again, just giving you the top 5 again. Oklahoma, the new number 1 in ESPN's power rankings. Alabama comes in at number 2. Georgia comes in at number 3. Clemson number 4, and Ohio State number 5. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, I'm going to talk about why, just kind of continuing this conversation, why this past weekend was just a huge recruiting tool for one Alabama school. And we also saw how another Alabama school maybe need some lessons on how to run that old social media page. We'll dive into it when we come back right here on Second Down. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Glad you're hanging out with us on this Tuesday afternoon.
With some fake baseball smack talk with you and Kevin.
Little MLB The Show talk. Never hurt anybody. That game.
You said you would no-hitter him.
I'm no hit, Kevin.
Oh.
No problem. He don't want the smoke. But yeah, MLB The Show is a really fun game, but also a game you can tell they're still working through some challenges.
Yeah.
For a long time, it was PlayStation only. I think forever.
Forever, yeah. This is the very first
It
year
was
ever.
PlayStation only. Now it's on both consoles, and I've never been like a controller thrower, but I do like kind of grip it a little tighter when the game just like locks up and freezes, and I'm like,
Never been a wall puncher?
never. I've never looked at an inanimate object and been like,
I'm gonna hurt that.
I need to punch that
Yeah, I
thing.
need to punch
Walls don't
that.
punch back, man.
No.
Walls don't punch.
There was a
back.
bar I was telling you guys the other day where there was someone punched a hole in it and they framed it and it says toxic masculinity
Yeah.
2018 artist unknown. So awesome.
I think like the maddest I've ever gotten, I don't even know if it's mad or just like heartbroken and like my body reacted to it, was 2nd and 26 in the national championship game. And I was sitting in a chair, and obviously Tua did what Tua did to Devonta Smith. I kind of stood up out of the chair really fast, and like the stool fell backwards, and like that's about the closest I've come to it. But then after that, it was just pain. BJ texting me, asking me if I'm okay, like that whole situation. But that being said, speaking of Alabama, I did want to dive back into this because what Nick Saban and Alabama were able to accomplish, and obviously give the players credit too, but you got to give Nick Saban credit because A, you recruit them, and B, you develop them. What they did over the weekend, I think, is the best recruiting tool, period, end of story, of any recruiting tool. You can have the facilities, which you have to have if you want to compete for recruits. You can have the amazing social media. You could be in what you consider to be the best college town, period. You could have all the amenities. When the name, image, likeness stuff comes up, your ability to help them will obviously be a boon for you in terms of recruiting players. But I think number one, end of story, period, recruiting tool is being able to look at guys and say, if you come here, there's a very good chance you're going to go pro. With Nick Saban, it's more like, if you come here, there is a very distinct chance you're going to go in the first round. A very distinct chance that you're going to be a first, second round pick in the NFL draft, which I kind of hold very similarly to each other, just the way they value positions in the NFL. I don't think there's much of a difference between a first and a second round pick, in my opinion, right? But that being said,
starting wise, yeah.
That being said, what Nick Saban was able to do, they had 6 first-round picks. For comparison, the University of Georgia had 1.
6, that's like 18.5% of the first round picks were.
Who are you?
I was engineer in the Army, dude. I know math.
Yeah, who are you?
6 out of 32, right? Isn't that like 18 and a half?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah, 10 total draft picks, which Georgia did have 9 total draft picks, but again,
recruiting, baby.
6 first-round draft picks. This is the 5th consecutive year. All right, just again, for comparison, Georgia had 9 draft picks, the most in school history. Is the most in school
Congratulations.
history. Right? Cam, 9 draft picks overall. I think Mark Webb was the last one off the board around like 260, 270. That's the most in school history. I think it tied 2 other classes, like 2002 or 2003 and 2013. I think are the 2 it tied. Alabama has had 5 consecutive years of having at least 9 players drafted.
That's ridiculous, dude.
Great.
At least 9 players drafted. I mean,
greatness.
There's not a better recruiting tool than that, right? When you sit down with a player and go, I know you're a 5-star. You're a wide receiver. You're a defensive end. You're a defensive tackle. You're an offensive guard. I think they had a long snapper get drafted, right? You sit down with them and you go, there's a better than fair chance that you're going to get drafted. Not many other schools can say that. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from other schools, but I've seen some schools that aren't Alabama put up billboards congratulating their 1 draft pick. Like, that's a big deal. We had somebody drafted. I mean,
if you got recruited and one of your offers is Alabama, you going to Alabama?
well, I mean, yeah,
I'm going to Alabama.
I'm going to
Yeah, I'm going to Alabama.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're going to Alabama.
I'm going to Alabama.
Right. And it's like, and it's the price you pay, right? Because you understand that Nick Saban, it's not going to be I'm not taking anything away from these coaches because obviously they've had a ton of success, but it's not going to be that kind of like lovey bro culture. Like, you don't have a slide like you do at Clemson inside of the coaching office, which again, Clemson's had a ton of success. It hasn't been Alabama's success, right? Like where
like the Yankees.
we're going to love you and it's going to be a brotherhood. No, Nick Saban says you're signing a contract. Like you are coming here. You're going to get the best out of me. I'm going to get the best out of you. If you put in the commitment and you work every day, there is a better than good chance that you are going to play football at the next level, right? And I'd be curious to go back and see just during Nick Saban's tenure in Alabama, how many players have transferred out of Alabama, like an Alvin Kamara, and gone on to be drafted, right? There's the famous picture, Cam, of Jalen Hurts, Tua, and Mac Jones standing there after a big playoff win. All three of those guys are probably going to be starting quarterbacks in the same week next year.
Agreed.
There's no other school in college football that can say that. And for a long time, that was kind of the thing, was like Alabama could put out offensive linemen, Alabama could put out defensive linemen, corners, everything. You just don't want an Alabama quarterback, right? It's A.J. McCarron, it's Greg McElroy, it's John Parker Wilson. They're all kind of right? Not anymore, man.
That was the one position they lacked.
Yeah.
Now they got it.
I used to give NC State credit because they pretty much had two starters in the NFL, because Russell Wilson started at NC State for a long time before doing his one transfer year, his grad transfer year at Wisconsin, and they had Phillip Rivers. I was like, that's really impressive. NC State has two starting quarterbacks. I mean, USC doesn't have any quarterbacks in the NFL right now as a starter. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what Alabama's been able to do.
Alabama has 3 undrafted free agents that just signed too.
Yeah. I mean, it's
like, dude,
it's ridiculous what they're able to do. One of them, Dylan Moses, the linebacker with signs with Jacksonville. I think he's going to be
got a good signing bonus too. He got like a $50,000 signing bonus. Like, dude, nice.
He's going to be a player. But flip side of that, let's go down to Auburn.
Okay.
The other big SEC school in the state of Alabama. They got a new head coach down there, Brian Harsin, and I think they put together a pretty good staff. They got Derek Mason as the defensive coordinator. They have Mike Bobo as their offensive coordinator. They've signed a few other coaches that are really, really successful coaches, right? And so it was a fairly disappointing draft for Auburn, because Auburn's a school that's used to putting out guys like Cam Newton, Derek Brown, really good players, right? Brian Harsin, following a fairly disappointing draft for Auburn, because I believe they had 4 total players drafted. And you had guys like Seth Williams, who I love as a wide receiver, really falling down draft boards. I don't know if Seth Williams actually got drafted, Cody. I think he signed as an undrafted free agent. So a kind of disappointing NFL draft for the Auburn Tigers. Well, you got to kind of save face a little bit after you watched your Iron Bowl rival just absolutely dominate headlines. And so, Cam, what do? You put out the graphic, right? You get on social media, you start pumping it up, you put out the graphic about how successful your coaches are at developing talent. Here's the problem.
He got drafted in the 6th round by the Broncos.
There you go. No, you're gonna like Seth Williams. Big possession receiver. You're gonna like Seth Williams.
He's good.
That Auburn offense did no favors for their wide
big
receiver.
Guy. He's like 6'4".
Yeah, they did no favors for their wide receiver. Seth Williams is a really good wide receiver. But that being said, Auburn puts out this graphic. It's got all their coaches kind of in a V, and the title itself says a history of developing talent. Who are you referring to? Because if you go to the bottom of it, 0 Auburn players. They got all these. They have all of these NFL players on the bottom of the graphic. 0 Auburn players. 4 Georgia players on the bottom of Auburn's developing talent graphic. Matt Stafford, A.J. Green, Todd Gurley, and Isaiah Wynn. I get what you're trying to say. Our coaches develop talent. Like Mike Bobo was Matt Stafford's offensive coordinator and quarterback coach. Like, you develop talent. You can't put the guy who smoke checked you in the black uniform game back in 2007 on your graphic trying to recruit people. All I'm looking at that and saying is, wow, there's 4 Georgia players on there. Georgia's probably pretty good at this whole developing guys thing. Isaiah Wynn was Georgia's left tackle in their national championship game. Right?
And my boy just got paid.
Yeah,
there you go, Wynn.
Right. Matt Stafford just got traded to the Los Angeles Rams and is going to be one of the better quarterbacks.
Megan Cheddar.
AJ Green just went to the Cardinals, right? Like, Cam, I get it. I get what the thought process was there, but as soon as you put the Deep South's oldest rivalries players on your graphic, somebody needs to talk to whoever that intern, student advisor, graphic designer was and be like, bro, do you watch SEC football? You can't do that.
I don't get that. I don't get that.
If I'm Georgia and I run Georgia's Twitter account, I'm retweeting that.
Surprised you guys aren't out there in pitchforks, stuff like that, man. You guys crazy to college football.
Like,
Man.
why would we be out there for
Them,
pitchfork?
them fighting words, dude.
They're giving Georgia free advertising on their own page.
Nice, yeah, nice.
Like, they're like, man, yeah, Georgia is really good at developing talent. That's unbelievable. Like 0 times have I seen Kirby Smart take pictures of guys he coached, Marcel Darius and stuff, while he was at Alabama, Mark Barron, and use those on Georgia pages. You know why? They're Alabama players. You don't use that on your recruiting page unless you're Alabama. Auburn. Why don't you just put up pictures of Takeo Spikes, Cadillac Williams, Ronnie Brown, just
Cam Newton.
Yeah, Cam Newton. Put up all these great Auburn players up there and be like, we do this too. Don't go steal 4 players from one of your biggest rivals. I said, we all have rough days on social media. I called Dana White Joe Rogan one time. Like we all have. We all have rough times on. I mean, to be fair, they're both bald.
Okay.
They're both bald and like in their late 40s, early 50s. So like to be fair, but I mean, again, we all have rough days on social media. It's a rough day. You know what else Twitter gave you? A delete button.
I wish they did an edit button. Do that.
You're allowed to admit mistakes and delete stuff. And yet, as we speak right now at 2:32 on a Tuesday, that bad boy's still up there. Georgia's still getting recruiting traction because there's Matt Stafford, there's AJ Green, there's Isaiah Wynn, and there's Todd Gurley. Like, come on, man. You can't do that.
Sad. It's sad.
I mean, Cam, are you leaving it up? Or are you like, no, people will get it? Or you like before you send that through, are you like, no, let's try again?
I wouldn't be able to get that at all. I'll be honest. I wouldn't be able to because it's me. If I went on social media and saw that, I'd be like, what are they talking about? It was not snapped in my head. Oh, those are Georgia players. I mean, yeah, like those are players they're saying they coached back in the day. So
like but also think about who you're recruiting, right? It's 17-year-olds, right? And so those guys, when Matt Stafford was the quarterback at Georgia in 2007, those guys were 3 years old.
Gee.
They don't remember Mike Bobo being the offensive coordinator at Georgia.
Is it too late to like delete it? Or it's like, are you riding it now?
Once the articles come out where they're embedding fans' tweets roasting you, once those articles get published, you can't delete it.
That's what I'm saying.
You can't delete it. But I mean, again, there needs to be a process. I've always said this. Every person of significant influence, every big school, every NFL team, or every professional sports team, just anybody who has a large following on social media needs to hire somebody whose sole job is to just look at everything and be like, no, that's stupid.
If I do that, will they verify me?
That's a very ambiguous
Twitter
process.
Hit me up.
That's a very ambiguous process now. That Twitter like doesn't even have a thing where you can submit for it anymore.
It's ridiculous, man.
They just bestow it upon you when they see fit. But I do think that's a job that in 2021 and forward, there needs to be a job at every major company that has a social media department, which is pretty much every major company. That's just like, you need to get the final say so, yes or no. Like, no, that's stupid. And there is no retorts to that. There is no, no. If I say it's stupid, it's stupid.
You think interns are running it?
Yeah, I mean it's a college.
Okay.
You probably have. I mean there is a person on staff who runs their social media department, but you also employ a lot of students who work inside the journalism schools. Like I know Georgia Grady has a great program up there,
yeah.
And so like a lot of the photographs you see from UGA athletics are student photographers, right? And so they do have students that are working on a lot of this stuff. But again, I can tell you for a fact the person that put this graphic out isn't an SEC lifer.
Yeah.
Because if you have been born and enveloped by SEC football and you understand the deep South Southwest rivalry, you understand the pettiness. Because I mean, if you actually think about it from the abstract, I get what they're saying. I get what they're saying with it, but you also have to understand the pettiness of SEC football fans to the fact that as soon as you put one Georgia player on your Auburn graphic, you're getting drugged. And that far outweighs anything positive that comes out of the message you were trying to put out there, right? There's snarkiness, there's pettiness, there is so many rivalries. Like, there are schools that don't even have names to rivalries. They just don't like each other. Like Georgia and South Carolina, that's not a rivalry, but they hate each other. And those fan bases loathe each other.
It's true.
Like, can you imagine South Carolina Cam putting Georgia players on their recruiting graphic?
Well, I can't. I'm really shocked that any school would do that, but that's
Ever.
Auburn. That's Auburn. That's like Georgia doing that with Alabama, Georgia Tech, putting Calvin Johnson up there, saying, "Yeah, this is Calvin Johnson." It's just weird. I mean, I know it's supposed to be reference to the players that they coached in the past, but
No,
that's
but still,
stupid.
like, Charlton Warren came to Georgia, and now he's a defensive coordinator at Indiana, but he came to Georgia from Florida.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Georgia putting out a recruiting graphic from drafted Florida players on it?
Oh my God.
They delete the whole account.
Yeah.
You'd have to delete the whole account because Florida would, like the University of Florida itself, would buy billboard space and put up that tweet.
That's right, baby.
Like you would be driving into Jacksonville at the end of October and you would see nothing but that tweet everywhere. Right? So Auburn, it was a rough night. You watched Alabama dominate the draft and you tried valiantly, I think valiantly on social media to make a little bit of a headway in terms of your NFL draft capital. You just got to use Auburn players next time. We got more to come here on Second Down. Huge series for the Braves coming up Cody, these next couple weeks, really, I'd say you got Washington coming up tonight, but you are on another 4-game losing streak.
Dude, they allowed in this 3-game series like 27 runs, dude.
Yeah, bad pitching staff right now, but you're on another 4-game losing streak. This national series coming up, a massive series for the Atlanta Braves. Huascar Ynoa is on the mound tonight. Max Fried tomorrow night. We'll talk about it when we come back right here on Second Down. Welcome back into Second Down right here on ESPN Radio. We're, of course, presented to you by the Uniform Source. Big show coming up next on 3 and Out. The guy's going to catch up with home team Brandon Leak from 680 The Fan. Cam, trivia question for you here. NFL.com put out their draft grades, and only one team got an A+. Any idea which team that was?
I said yesterday, Falcons.
The Atlanta Falcons, Cody. So we'll catch up with home team Brandon Leak about that. 3:35. For all the college football fans out there, Georgia Southern head football coach Chad Lunsford going to hang out with us. Raymond Johnson signed an undrafted free agent deal with the New York Giants, as well as long snapper Ryan Langham with the Los Angeles Chargers. We'll catch up with Coach Lunsford about that, as well as the fact Georgia Southern has added a bunch of really cool games to the future schedule. So we'll talk to him about that. For the Jaguars fans and I guess the Ohio State fans out there, Luke Farrell, Jaguars' 5th-round pick, is going to join the show at 4 o'clock. Former Ohio State tight end. He caught a touchdown in that college football semifinals matchup against Clemson. So we'll catch up with Luke Farrell about that. And then coming up at 5 o'clock, Cody, I think the day is finally here. We'll catch up with Rich Styles from the Back Nine Boys, and we will preview tomorrow's showdown between myself and Mr. Styles out on the golf course. I know, Cody.
I'm so torn.
No, you're not.
I'm so torn.
No, you're not. You're rooting for that old man.
Well, no, I'm torn between walking or using a golf cart.
Are you?
Yes. No, not really.
No,
Golf
not
cart.
at all.
Golf cart, baby.
Yeah, I think Rich is one to walk it. That's fine. I'll still ride in a golf cart. They invented golf carts for a reason. To play golf in them. Like, you don't have to walk anymore, Rich. This ain't the PGA Tour.
He's treating it like it, dude. He's ready.
Apparently. But I mean, is he treating it like it, or he's got the robotic bag carrier that follows him around?
I don't know. He was around before golf carts, so he's doing old school way.
But I mean, all of the courses that Rich has played at are those fancy courses where they have caddies for you. And so you go out with a caddy and they carry Rich's bag for him. I don't know if Rich Styles, I'm going to put this out there right now. I bet you Rich Styles has never carried his bag for 18 holes.
Dude, this guy right here. Go ahead.
Rich,
go ahead and slander my boy, all right?
If you're tough tomorrow, Rich, if you're listening to this, if you're tough, you'll carry your bag.
Talk that talk. Talk that talk, Christian.
18 holes. You don't need a robotic thing that follows a magnet in your arm.
He's got a cart, yeah.
Yeah, like literally, you put a wristband on and you put your bag in this carrier.
I don't think he has that.
Follows you around. Get the hell out of here, Rich. Carry your bag.
I don't think he has that.
Because he's never done it before.
Can't talk to a veteran like that.
He's never done it before. I talk to you like that all the time.
That's true.
Yeah,
people don't know that Rich is a veteran.
Oh, Rich is a dude. Rich is a veteran of the military and also a veteran of getting down with the get down.
DJ in Chicago, dude. They named the
DJ.
Day after him for a little bit. That's crazy.
He has more bling than 2 Chainz in some of these pictures. Like, I mean, my guy is out there with the drip on.
That's true.
Wearing like a mortgage around his neck. Like, no problem.
Yep.
No problem. So we'll catch up with Rich Homie Styles coming up at 5 o'clock. But as we mentioned, the Braves take on the Nationals after a much needed day off after a really rough weekend. You've lost 4 in a row. You get swept out of Florida by the Toronto Blue Jays. And now you're sitting at 12-16. I believe only 2 games out of first place in the division still. And the Mets are like firing their hitting and pitching coaches right now. So the NL East is still in disarray. But according to ESPN.com, the Atlanta Braves have seen the biggest drop off in terms of their percentage of making, or their chance of making the playoffs by percentage. Start of the season, the Braves had an 81% chance of making the playoffs. As they currently sit at 12-16, they have a 33% chance of making the playoffs. So for all of our other Army engineers like Cody back there, so 1 in 3 chance of making the playoffs.
Yes.
Which is not where you thought this Atlanta Braves team would be at the beginning of the year. Also down your top 2 catchers, probably going to be without your number 1 catcher in Travis d'Arnaud, who's a Silver Slugger last year for the rest of the year. And so if you get Alex Jackson back, great. But it looks like it's going to be Contreras at catcher for you for the foreseeable future, which he's hit really well. But as we kind of touched on yesterday, my concern, Cody, isn't inherently with his hitting. It's with the fact that Travis d'Arnaud is so good behind the plate, navigating these young pitchers through these tough games. Now you have a young catcher back there navigating young pitchers through. That makes me a little bit nervous. At the same time, though, Dansby Swanson was a guy who batted .270 last year. He's not going to continue to struggle like this. We've seen Ozzie Albies start to pick it up a little bit. Freddie Freeman, I think getting hit on the elbow kind of ended what was a little bit of a hot streak for him. And so maybe with a day off, he got a chance to relax a little bit, rehab a little bit. We can see him get back towards his MVP form. Ronald Acuna is still, to me, the front runner for the MVP in the National League right now. You need Marcell Ozuna to start picking it up, but he's been hitting the ball well. And then just whatever else you can get from the bottom of that lineup. Austin Riley every now and then is going to give you a 4-for-4 night. Then he's going to give you an 0-for-4 night, and it all kind of averages out. So whatever you can get from the bottom of the lineup. But Cody, I know you talk about this all the time. Biggest concern for me right now is pitching.
Yes.
Because it is bad for the Atlanta Braves. But you have the guy who's pretty much been your best pitcher all year, and honestly, one of your best hitters all year. He's got a dang home run. Huascar Ynoa going for the Atlanta Braves tonight. So a guy who you thought was going to be your bullpen game starter, you're like, hey, we see 3 innings out of you. All of a sudden, he's become your best starter, period. And so he's going tonight. You get Max Fried back tomorrow night, which I know a lot of Braves fans have been clamoring for. So we'll see Max Fried coming up tomorrow night. But a huge series coming up. We'll have full coverage of you pregame and then the play-by-play call coming up a little bit later tonight following 3 and Out. We'll take a quick break here. We'll come back. Final segment of Second Down next. Big show coming up next on 3 and Out. We'll catch up with home team Brandon Leak from 680 to the Fan. Also coming up at 3:35, we will talk to the head football coach of the Georgia Southern Eagles, Chad Lunsford. They recently wrapped up spring practice. Also saw a couple of former Eagles sign undrafted free agent contracts to continue their career in the NFL. And also Georgia Southern adding a lot of really interesting future schedules. You got Clemson on there, Cody. Couple of other big-time schools as well. So we'll catch up with Chad Lunsford about that coming up at 3:35. Also at 4 o'clock, we will catch up with Luke Farrell. He is the newest tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars, taken in the 5th round out of Ohio State. And then coming up at 5 o'clock, we will catch up with Rich Stiles from the back nine boys. But Cody, over the weekend, our own Cam Urshery celebrated his birthday. Cam, what'd you guys get into? I saw you were at the Painted Pen. That used to be one of my old hangouts when I lived in Atlanta. Saw you were out there playing some. It looked like touch football. What'd you get into for your birthday weekend?
Little flag football, Painted Pen, bowling, drinks with the guys, had some fun. Draft night, stayed home and watched that on my actual birthday, but the weekend was fun. Friends took me out, so had a great time. Can't complain.
Cody had his perfect birthday weekend. The Falcons would have taken Justin Fields at 4. But here we are.
Oh, yeah.
I tweeted you at like 3 a.m. and you're like, we drinking. I'm like, me too. And hey, I celebrated with you in spirit, man. In spirit.
Hang out with a bunch of degenerates over here. Cam, you were bowling though. What's your career best bowling score?
Oh, my best. I'm not a great bowler. I'm decent. I won't brag about it, but it was like, I think 160 one time. That's not too bad for an average bowler.
I remember keeping Cody at a bowling alley one time after all of our friends were gone because I was bowling an amazing game.
I don't remember that.
I know you don't because there were certain factors involved.
Did we go to Waffle House afterwards?
Yeah, we did.
Yes.
But there were certain factors involved in why. But I also remember Cody at that same bowling alley using the dinosaur ramp to bowl.
Oh yeah,
that the kids use. I mean, Cam, are you allowed in an actual bowling match to use the dinosaur ramp?
Heck no. Not even, no bumpers, no dinosaur ramp, no none of that. No.
I would have fell over. There's no way.
I do like on the bumpers every now and then though. You just do like the zigzag bowl where you just let it bang off and you hope you get one. Have you guys ever completed the split?
No,
like the last 2 pins are on the outside.
I suck at bowling.
No,
dude. Yeah.
I can't do that.
The Disney Channel movie it was, but you remember that? They were bowling and the kid hit the perfect shot.
Oh, what's the Disney guy?
It spins to the outside and it hits the outside of the pin and kicks it back across and hits the other side of the pin. If I ever did that, I'm retiring from bowling immediately.
I'm not a Disney. I wasn't a Disney channel guy. I was a Disney movie guy.
At all.
I was a Nickelodeon guy. So I do not know what you're talking about.
This is not where I wanted to take this conversation at all, and I'm not going to let you do it. I'm going to take the steering wheel and pull it back over.
You got beef with Nickelodeon,
No, I mean I liked it all. I was just going to ask you guys, what is your favorite older person sport? Like shuffleboard, bowling, cornhole. What's your favorite?
Dominoes.
That's not a sport.
Oh,
Probably bowling. Yeah.
Chess sport.
No. Yeah, bowling probably.
I'm a big shuffleboard guy. Doesn't matter where I
never played.
Where I go on vacation, and I'm like, if you're at the condos and they have shuffleboard down there, we're getting after it. I don't inherently consider stuff like tennis an older person sport. It needs to be something where I don't have to move very much, and I could play it for 6 hours. Big shuffleboard guy. But you're gonna be an old guy bowling, Cody?
Yeah, I don't really play any of those sports.
Do you use the shoes at the bowling alley?
Yes, of course.
Gross.
Of course I do.
Gross.
Yeah.
You?
Yeah, dude.
You, the guy who will not eat a burger with French fries touching it?
It's true. I don't really go much.
You will put your feet where other people's feet have been.
And I won't go to water park.
On that note, we will send you over to the guys from 3 and Out. BJ Bennett, Ben Troop, Kevin Thomas coming up next.